Board of Election Commissioners of the City of Chicago, constituting ex officio the Electoral Board to hear and pass upon objections to nomination papers of candidates for the office of Mayor, City Clerk, City Treasurer, and Alderman in the City of Chicago. Good morning. My name is Marisel Hernandez. I'm the chairwoman. Seated to my left is Commissioner Jonathan Swain, and to my right is Commissioner William Kresse. We have no regular motions. We will proceed with the Rule 20 hearings. We have 3 today. The first one is being recalled. 19 EB ALD-105, Renee Elms, Peter Rivera, Renee Wozniak, Maria G. Orahel, and Evelyn Razzo versus Joseph G. Williams, candidate for Alderman of the 15th Ward. And if the parties could state their appearances for the record.
Joseph Williams, candidate Alderman 15th Ward.
Scott Bergman on behalf of the objectors.
Okay. We were here last Friday regarding this particular matter, and we had further evidence submitted by the attorney for the objectors, Mr. Erdman, specifically the nomination, certain pages of the nomination petitions with further documentation at the end of a group of pages. We had objectors exhibit A and B. Mr. Williams, you received those, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you had the opportunity to review them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I guess one of our main questions, once we review that, is all of these, half of these petitions, objectors exhibit A, are all dated and notarized on August 28th. And the second group, objectors exhibit B, are all notarized on August 29th. And what we want to know, and is it correct that you circulated and obtained the signatures for these?
Yes, ma'am. Also, I had my wife with me that day, so she did about.
I think you have to speak up a little louder.
Also, I had my wife with me that day, so she may have circulated about 2 or 3 of those sheets as well.
Right, right. Our question is, how did you manage to circulate so many petitions and get so many signatures on one day? And once we received further information from the objector's attorney, it caused us to pause and look at this all over again.
Yeah. Well, I think, quite honestly, I would say my work ethic. By reading what I've seen in the email from the objectors, basically it sounded like it's kind of swaying away from really what they objected in the first case, but when looking at it, it's almost as if the objector is telling me how fast I was moving outside. So he put Google Maps and attached all these different things. I felt like, sorry if I'm out of breath. I ran about 4 blocks because I wanted to be on time. But for me, it's for him to tell me that how I was moving outside. It just didn't seem to make sense. And then from looking at the information that I seen that the objector submitted, they didn't just put like a fast or slower time or something like that. They didn't give us 3 different sets. They just said, well, look, this is where it would be right here. This is his time as if he was moving. And he wasn't tracking me. He didn't have nothing on me to say this is how I was moving. And I feel that we went out there, and me, my wife, and the family, I think we did an amazing job out there. We was excited when we got back home because we collected so many sheets. So I had 2 clipboards myself, and we was out there pretty much humping it out the whole day. Started no later than about 9:50 maybe at the latest. Got started, and because it was the summertime, people was outside pretty much all night, so we didn't wrap up till about, well, myself, I didn't leave outside till at least about 10:30. My wife had left me out there so long to take the kids home.
What time did you start on the 28th?
Probably started around about 8:50 maybe.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, 9:50 to be exact. Because we didn't pick them up to 9:30, so about 9:50 is when we actually got started, about 10 minutes before 10. And I humped it out till about 10:30 that night. My wife came out some more, helped me out, came with the kids, left, went home, we got them together. Even came back to try to bring me lunch, but I ain't even want nothing to eat. I just kept humping it out the whole day. And I was out there pretty much that night, rather. And people were still outside. They were still outside, so.
Well, I'm just wondering because, yes, the objector's attorney attached a copy of the Google Maps with the times to get from one street or one distance from one to another. But when I look at that doesn't even account for the time you spent knocking on the doors, waiting for someone to open the door, talking to the person, getting their information, having them sign the nomination petition. And so it causes some concern that there are so many nomination pages here that you have for just for each of these days. And this is the first day that petitions could have been signed.
Yeah, that's about the best I can give you is that while being out there, worked hard. I don't know, throughout the entire process, if you have the opportunity to look at everything, the objectors have made many allegations towards me, from stating I had a felony to everything you would possibly think of, and never showed a burden of proof. Even at this point of the stage right now, the objectors try to tie me to a barbecue to say I was out there circulating fish at a barbecue, when in fact, it was door by door. So even then, the objectors never showed any proof with that. They didn't give us nothing to say it's 1,000 people at this barbecue. We don't see a list of people. It's all based on assumptions and theory and their own opinion. I don't feel that the objectors have the right to say how fast I was moving. It may be a lot of sheets, and I hate to say coming from where I come from, but coming from where I come from, even this morning running down here, it shows the work ethic that I'm willing to put into anything. So for us to go out there today and collect that many, I felt good about it. I think myself, it probably was about 32 sheets. To me, it may seem like a lot to y'all, but it wasn't as many. I mean, if you're out there and you see it, and we're talking about summertime, people outside, people inside, but it's just the simple fact, people is like everywhere you go down the block.
I understand that, but then again, when I see the summary, and this is of course an estimate based on Google, how much time it would have taken you to collect all these signatures? I'm not even talking about, like I said, knocking on the door. It's estimated that on August 28th, you would have spent 19 hours and 11 minutes walking from one place to the other. And on the second day, on August 29th, you would have spent 35 hours. I mean, that's an impossibility.
You said night.
Well, you saw the summary sheet.
I didn't get you in front of it, but yeah, so you say from August 28th, it would have took,
just on August 29th, based on Google Maps.
Yeah.
The fact that you went from one place to the other, covered all the addresses you did.
Yes.
You claimed on August 29th. In reality, according to Google Maps, it would have taken you 35 hours.
Well, not to be disrespectful, Madam Chair, but how about a human map? How about a map that actually follows me throughout the community. I just don't feel that. Again, I don't feel that. One, I don't even think the information should have even been considered. But even if we consider the information, I don't think it's fair because they only give you what it's like as if someone was to have done it. It's not giving you a pace of how fast someone could be moving. He only submitted that one. He didn't say what it looks like if I was to be moving slower. He didn't say what it looked like if I would have been moving.
I agree that this is a pure estimate, but I also think that we have to factor in there the amount of time it took me not to talk to people, get their signature, and all of that.
Well, I did get sworn, and I would say the same thing today. Me and my wife, we went out there and we collected those 35 sheets, and we didn't do it any time before the August 28th. We even submitted evidence in, well, my wife's testimony, but also we went with a union, and we did that on purpose, just because you never know what can possibly happen. So we went with Progress Print. Progress Print also gave us a receipt that stated we picked it up on the 28th. So we provided as much information as we possibly could. And again, if you look at the objectives, what they were objecting, I think that was paragraph 8. When we look at it in particular, they had nothing that put me at a barbecue circulating petitions. And that was their entire claim. Their entire claim was that the only way he could have got this many was if he was at a barbecue with this many people, this and that, and that's how he got it. So nothing else is put out there other than that. And they showed no type of evidence or proof other than that. They even brought 2 witnesses in that couldn't even say that they even seen a petition. And my thing, they even bounced back at that. How would it even been at a barbecue if it was door by door? Even though now the objector says, okay, maybe it's door by door, but he could have done it in that much time. He still shows no burden of proof of me even doing this at a barbecue, and that was his objection. But I feel, and
so can you explain to me?
Yes.
Can you explain then? So I'm looking at Exhibit 2. No, I'm sorry. Exhibit the 28th. I'm looking at the petitions that were gathered on the 28th.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the one marked number 2. Do you have copies of these with you?
Page 2.
Councilman, if you have one at the ready, you can show him. That'd be great.
I might.
Now we'll get you a copy so you can.
Actually, if you want to just...
Yeah, why don't you just grab this one?
You said page 2, right?
Yeah, right.
I got
Yeah,
it.
number 2 from the 28th.
Okay.
There's big 2 up here.
Yeah, on the one that was signed on the 28th,
Okay.
where it says 10.8 miles, 3 hours and 35 minutes at the bottom.
So I didn't. I got the original. I don't got the miles and all of that stuff.
Oh, okay. Can you give me a copy?
Here.
Take a look at this copy.
There you go, sir.
So you say that you went door by door, and part of this sheet seems to indicate that, but in this particular case, for example, start with line 1. You're at 6531 South Hermitage. Then you go to 6642 South Paulina. Then you come back to 6538 South Hermitage. So you went from Hermitage to Paulina, now back to Hermitage. Excuse me, Hermitage to Paulina and another block, then back to Hermitage. Hermitage again, further down, going down to the 6400 block. Then you go to 59th Street, and then 59th Marshfield, Winchester, Ashland, back to 60th and Justine. So, you know, I can appreciate the hustle. Yeah, obviously, you're winded coming over here, so, you know, we'll take that for what it is. But it seems like on this particular, for example, you're going from place to place to place to place to place, which further strengthens the argument of the objector saying, how can you walk, if you say you went door to door, how can you walk from 6531 Hermitage to 6642 Paulina, back to 6538 Hermitage, further down the block, then go to 59th Street, then go to Marshfield on 5900 block, then to Winchester, then to, you get my point?
Yes.
So can you explain for me why that looks that way?
Yes.
If
So-
you went door to door?
Yes, sir. So, I love that. So the good thing about it is that even when going door to door, right, you're going to see people maybe just outside. As you're going to the next door, somebody walking past, hey, you signed my petition for me. So that particular person could have been on Paulina. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was going door to door on Hermitage and just got off my block and just said, I'm going to go over here on Paulina, then I'm going to fly back. No, I didn't do that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I did that. I'm going to tell you I was going door to door. I was on Hermitage. And if you see miscellaneous addresses, there are simply going to be people who are outside probably walking past as I was going door to door, or somebody who maybe even been on that porch or something like that, and I just asked them to sign. So some of the addresses, most of them are being in the ward, but even when you see a Laughlin and Justine on it, that's nowhere in the ward. So that person was probably either on that porch or somewhere right there, and I asked them to sign for me. And that was just me continuing to have that hustle and like trying to fill up my petition sheets and just get people to sign for me.
So what you're saying, so what, if I'm hearing you correctly,
Yeah.
what you're saying is that you were going to door,
Yeah.
catching anybody along the path you were walking.
Yes, sir.
And if I may, and if you're walking down the street, and you say this was summer,
Yes.
the weather was good on the 28th and 29th. Say you came by a commercial enterprise, a store or something, there were people coming out, would you ask people there
Oh
as
yeah,
well?
oh yeah, oh yeah. If I was walking past and there was a playground on the next corner, I see some people, I'm finna go in, hey, y'all get y'all sign my petition for me, then right back onto the door to door.
In the packet marked Objectors Exhibit B, page 18, they show that you, using the objectors system, looking at the addresses on the petition, they would contend that you apparently walked 25.1 miles in order to go to each of these doors. But you're saying that it's very possible that in your going to door, you ran into people who lived miles away
Oh yeah.
and then miles away. And that's how we got to this 25.1.
So,
So just,
Yeah.
is it your testimony that in filling out page 18 of your petition, you did not in fact walk 25 miles?
I don't have 18, but
Here,
I'm gonna say that.
So make sure you take a look first, and make sure you understand what this question is, so you answer that whole time.
Okay, page 18. And the question was,
In
I see it.
in getting this petition filled, you did walk your ward, but did you walk to all of these particular addresses for a total of 25 miles?
No, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
And likewise, I would imagine page 19, when the objectors said that you walked 24 miles, likewise, you were encountering people along the way who had residential addresses throughout the ward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Erdman, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, Mr. Williams hits on a point that I raised the last time you were here about what is when Google lays out the walk time, it's got to be based on some idea of speed. Have you ever do any research to figure out what the basis is of their walk speed?
Common sense. And, you know,
So the answer's no. So the answer's
No. Well,
I mean,
Mr. Lasker did it while we were here. Mr. Lasker did it right in front of the board.
I'm not asking Mr. Last, I'm asking you, Mr.
I said no.
Okay, so that's the answer.
And how many signatures were collected on the 20th and how many were collected on total on the 29th? Is this a complete set of sheets, Mr. Erdman? We have 8 sheets for August the 28th.
Yes, that's all the sheets from the 20th.
Times 20
So-
lines per sheet. That's 160 signatures on August the 28th. Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Questions to you?
And there would be, on August the 29th, there were 440 signatures collected by Mr. Williams. Is that correct?
From this exhibit?
From this exhibit, I have 22 sheets, there are 20 signatures on each sheet,
440.
440.
Mr. Erdman, this, what you put together compiled is compelling at first glance. Did you, however, take into account the possibility that, now, let me see if I got this straight. This is based on the idea that the candidate walked to the addresses listed on the petition sheet in sequence, correct?
Yes.
To those particular addresses. It did not take in the possibility that along the way, they encountered people that live outside the route.
Yes.
Oh, yes, it did not take that.
It did not.
Okay. So while at first this appears very compelling, and you know, it seems that it may fail because much of these distances cannot fall into the idea that, you know, that these were people who were living off of that block who just happened to be on the block when the signature was collected.
That's great.
Okay.
That's great. But can we take a further look at that? Okay, so just on the 29th, the petition sheets from that packet.
Good.
That's we're looking at 13 sheets. I believe it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. 20 signatures a sheet. It's 260. Say 3 minutes a signature. It's 780 minutes. You're talking 13 hours. That's these sheets. And as we talked, that's no walk time. That's just a couple of minutes FaceTime for each of these signatures. That's throwing out walk time, and as I said before, that's just those sheets. Okay. The candidate has another. Sheets that he says that he circulated that same day on top of this. Okay, so if you just do FaceTime at a couple of minutes per signature, getting these signatures, forget walk time. Okay, he doesn't have the FaceTime enough to get these signatures on that page, which he's testified to, which absolutely calls into question his credibility.
Well, I understand your argument, but I also think that it's unfair to say that each signature would have taken 3 minutes to obtain. And after looking at this and after hearing Mr. Williams, frankly, I agree with the hearing officer's report. I don't think there's too much supposition here on the part of the objectors, and while I appreciate the time you took to do the Google Maps and do these estimates, I do think that Mr. Williams has fulfilled his burden. Are there any other questions?
I can finish now the assessment.
Okay. Okay. And given the discussion held today, is there a motion to deny the Rule 20 hearing and to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommendations and in this case?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the hearing officer's report is adopted, and it is therefore ordered that the name of Joseph G. Williams, candidate for Alderman in the 15th Ward, shall be printed on the ballot for the municipal general election.
That being a final decision, subject to section 10-10.1 of the Illinois Election Code, there will be 5 days within which the parties can seek judicial review. This applies to every case today where there's a final decision entered by the Electoral Board. We will be placing all the final written decisions in the mail today, which will start the 5-day clock for judicial review. If any party that is present would like to stick around, we can get a copy of that hand-delivered to you shortly here for this case, or at least by the end of the meeting. That will then speed up your availability to receive that. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. Next case. I'm just going to take this a little bit out of order before I call the next Rule 20 hearing. There is the case of Melvin Gunn and Carisha Cariel versus Dorothy A. Brown Cook. And in that case, the objector has withdrawn the objector's petition. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion passes, and the objections? Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes, and the objections in case number 19 EB-MUN-013 are withdrawn. So now that we have that one out of the way, I will call number Melvin Gunn and Harriet Mims and Shantia Kindle versus Dorothy A. Brown Cook, 19 EB-MUN-007. Are the parties here?
Carolyn Crafter from the objectors.
Mabel Taylor on behalf of the candidate and the candidate.
Okay. And this,
Council, you drop something.
It's in front of the table.
I'm open support.
and this is the candidate's Rule 20 motion. Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
You may proceed with your argument in support of your Rule 20.
What the candidate is alleging in this case with respect to the Rule 20, that in this particular case during the Rule 6 records examination, there was a unprecedented increase in the number of objections that was added to the candidate's record. Initially, when the initial objections was entered into the computer, there was only 33,396 objections entered for that preliminary report on this particular case. Subsequently, almost in basically the 26 hours when the Rule 6 objection was almost over, suddenly or magically, or however you want to describe it, all of a sudden, when we looked at the report from January the 7th, there was an increase of 1,736 objections added to it. So her objections jumped from 33,396 to 35,124. There was no sufficient explanation given as to why that happened. We had objectors, not objectors, but we had watchers there that was monitoring the proceedings, that was never notified that there was an unprecedented number of objections being added to her petition. Further,
I'm sorry, Council, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Of these new objections that you identified, are there any of those that you identified that were not in the original objector's petition?
well, that's the question. We specifically asked that the pages that they added be identified. And that information was never provided to us as far as where they.
Can I stop
Yeah.
you there? Because I think we have the people here
That's
who
fine.
know firsthand.
Yeah, we have,
And you
yeah.
have stated on a couple of occasions that there's no sufficient explanation. You don't know how this came about. And I do think that there was an explanation, and I'd like to hear from Mr. Lasker.
In the proceedings, under oath, during testimony, Mr. Holliday identified those sheets. Not only did he identify them by page number, but he then pulled up the computer to show the scan that had those sheets scanned upside down and therefore appearing to be blank. You can still see that they were scanned. They all have 2 hole punches at the top. These sheets, you can still see the 2 hole punches at the top. It's a misrepresentation by Ms. Taylor to say that those sheets have never been identified.
Ms. Taylor, is that
I-
correct?
I-
Ms. Taylor, is that correct that the sheets just were backwards and the blanks were on top? Is that correct?
Well, I'm not sure if that's correct or not, because I never saw the sheets upside down, blank, or whatever. So that's their representation of what it is, whether or not they were upside down or blank, I don't know.
Did you hear Mr. Holliday state that on the record?
For the first time after the issue was brought up, after the emergency motion was filed, asking that the records examination be suspended based upon the suspicious number of objections that was asked, then we initially received an explanation. I had previously asked, when I noticed overrules changing, some things that I thought that may have been suspect or needed an additional explanation, I did ask Mr. Holliday about the overrules. I'm not getting into the missing sheet.
No,
And
that's what we're focused
Okay,
on right now.
let's- okay, on the missing
What
sheets.
you're calling missing sheets, what we're calling the sheets
Upside
were,
down.
accidentally, turned over and they were scanned that way.
Well, the issue was, initially, Mr. Holliday indicated that it was only the sheets that may have been upside down was from 1204 to 1218. And then all of a sudden, then there was an additional testimony that no, it wasn't that, it was an additional sheets that were also upside down. So the numbers of sheets that was upside down or may have been upside down, I don't know about whether they
You
were. I
never
saw it.
examined them?
No.
You never examined those sheets
No,
personally?
no, I never
To
did.
look to see whether the pages were consecutive on the other side?
I know, I never saw however they scan, no, I never saw that procedure.
Did
So
you ever request to see them?
did I request to see what?
Those sheets?
We did a request to produce, asking
And
the
did you see
board
them?
to designate what sheets that they indicated was upside down or whatever, and what sheets that they specifically used to add the 1,736 objections, and we never received that information.
You never saw them?
No, I did not.
To this day, are
To
you
this
telling
day,
me you
no.
have never seen those sheets?
That was upside down, or the sheets that they specifically designated that they had to re-add the objections to, the specific
Well,
sheets
flip over. The
that was
sheets
flipped over, or the specific sheets that they used, or on this sheet, in that particular set, this is the set, and on these sheets, this is what we did. I never saw the
Why
specific,
didn't you ask to see them?
we did a request to produce.
And, Mr. Alaska? Yes.
These sheets were served on the candidate before these hearings even began.
Yeah,
These sheets are in the candidate's possession, and the sheet numbers have been identified. Right? They're giving them every opportunity to look for themselves. Are any of the objections involved in the decision of this case outside the scope of what was contained in the objector's petition? They've had every opportunity to look for that. They have to this day failed to identify a single objection that they allege to be outside the scope of what's contained in the duly and timely filed objector's petition that was served on the candidate prior to the commencement of these hearings.
and
So I'll go back to my original question, we're never gonna answer. Following up on Mr. Lasker, have you identified any of these objections that are outside the scope of the original objection?
okay, we never had the opportunity to identify them because we initially asked them to produce the sheets that they were using. They said the sheets were upside down, the numbers didn't match. The pages, initially they gave us one set of numbers, and then after that they gave us another set of numbers. So there was enough discrepancies where we wasn't sure what was happening. We have our watcher here also today who could offer some testimony. She was there that day when the alleged discrepancies in additions, and she never was notified, and she was there, that pages was missing from the 2 sets that they allegedly had to add to it to get to an additional 1,736 additional objections. So everything is suspicious as to where it was done. That's why the candidate filed the emergency motion to say that there is some issues with what happened. So can we minimally suspend it so there could be a reasonable time to make sure that both sides are fully informed as to what happened before we steamroll along? And we thought that was a reasonable request, which was
I
denied.
think this has been going on for approximately 5.5 weeks. That there has been a records examination. You asked for these. We have given these pages to you. How much more do you need? We have to decide who is on the ballot and who is not. We just cannot. We have early voting that's supposed to have started already, and we have given you a lot of time to go through these pages if you wanted to. Mr. Lasker, is there something else you wanted to say?
Well, the sheets are also in the official case file, right back here. It's the board's practice to bring that down to every hearing. When they had the hearing on their emergency motion, the line-by-line review by our staff had already completed in the records exam. All that was left was to send those results to the handwriting experts, which the candidate side wanted to happen. So
I'd like to hear from the attorney for the objectors at this time.
Thank you very much. First of all, this is completely a red herring because the candidate has put in the motion that there were all these objections that suddenly appeared. That is absolutely false. If you look at the original objector's petition, which was served upon the candidates, there were no rulings that were ever made of nothing that was, nothing was ever added to the objector's petition. So this is really a data entry complaint. What it is complaining about is that the preliminary reports that this board staff gives to participants as a courtesy that we're not even entitled to under the rules had some changing data from day to day. It was sufficiently explained by Mr. Holliday, who testified when the candidates did file an emergency motion. And it would be really simple for the candidate actually to resolve this matter by looking at her own copy of the objector's petition. In fact, this board has established a process. If people have problems with anything that comes up during the records check, you can file a Rule 8 motion. The candidate did file a Rule 8 motion, and in that Rule 8 motion, the candidate did not identify one objection that was ruled on or during the records examination that was not contained in the original objector's petition. So.
Okay, thank you both parties for your comments and arguments.
We have one other issue, Your Honor.
Ms. Brown, are you, have you filed an appearance?
I have, yes.
Yes.
Oh, she's on mine, yes.
Go ahead.
So we have one other issue concerning the way the actual rulings were done during the records examination. We found that there were amateur records examiners, people hired the same day, that our people actually had to train to rule upon signatures of voters, that people were actually registered at the address, printed their name, and they had to ruled upon the signatures as not being genuine. There were actually 2,413 that were ruled as not being genuine, more than enough to sustain, to actually have us over the number. And then a signature expert, a handwriting expert, that then looked at the same signatures and only validated another 224. We think that the process is flawed in that regard. My people can actually testify to the fact that we trained your records examiners, and then they were then asked to find a signature genuine or not, and they just got trained, had just been hired the same day, if you will. And so we feel that that was an unfair and unjust process. It's against, it takes away a voter's opportunity to actually say an individual should be up on the ballot. And so we wanted to bring that to your attention, because in addition to the fact that 1,736 objections were added at the last minute, and Mr. Holliday gave 3 different explanations. Three times he said that it was only 12:04 to 12:18, and then suddenly on the day of the hearing, he actually came up with this backward. The things were actually scanned in backwards, and so it just seemed like it was that was actually very flawed as well. So if we had those back, we're asking for all the signatures that from the 1195 to 1261. That would actually give us 1,320, which is bring us over, or the 2,413, which would bring us over. Either of those arguments, in our opinion, would actually bring us to the number required to be on the ballot.
Madam Chair, that's all essentially information that's proper in a Rule 8 hearing. That's contesting rulings of the Rule 8 or the Rule 6 records exam, which would do a Rule 8 hearing, not a Rule 20 hearing. They're provided that up.
And just for the sake of everyone here, can you take a minute to discuss the training and the people we had? The allegations regarding that our people were not trained?
Individual staffing, Mr. Holliday would have to address, but I can tell you that we did have our handwriting expert present a training session for two different groups of our staff as we were heading into this election cycle. The first group is the group of our staff that does signature comparisons on vote by mail ballots. When we receive those envelopes, the law requires us to compare the signature from the voter to their registration record. Our handwriting expert conducted a seminar for those staff members, and then a very similar seminar conducted for the staff members that do the records examination. I highly doubt, Mr. Holliday could tell you this, but I highly doubt that we would hire somebody same day and then put them on the record.
Oh, and I just want to ask Mr. Holliday, is that correct?
That is correct. We didn't hire anyone that particular day and start on the record exam. Anyone who was placed on the record exam had qualifications.
Thank you.
My question, Mr. Lasker, the handwriting experts that we hire, these are individuals who we contract with who are professional certified handwriting experts, correct?
That's correct. They're quite well credentialed. They're independent contractors.
And these are the people that hire our staff people that are involved in record reviews?
No, the handwriting experts do not hire our staff.
Not hire our staff, but they train. They have a training session.
They did conduct a training session, yes.
Okay, and then after our staff reviews all the signatures, the rulings of our staff are reviewed by the handwriting experts.
Before they become final.
Before we finalize them. So everything is sort of a secondary check. A professional certified handwriting expert checks all of the disputed signatures.
Because we can't expect, their seminar is a good seminar, but we can't expect that to turn our staff members into certified experts.
Understood.
Our certified experts, all of them actually have decades of experience now.
And how many experts did we hire for this series?
We started at 1, we're up to 4 right now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Respectfully, Your Honor, it took 5 weeks for individuals to go through this 1,261 signatures. It took 4 days, 4 maybe 5 days for the handwriting experts. I failed to see how they could actually have done a good job in validating those signatures.
Thank you for your arguments.
One other question I just have for Mr. Holliday. Is it possible for you to tell the board how long the particular records examiners that was on the 07 case, do you know how long they had been working for the board prior to them being assigned to the 07 examination, records exam?
You mean staff?
The staff members that was actually working on the 07 records examination. Were there any new, or how long had they been
We
employed?
had some of our regular staff that's with us all year. And there were a few that were hired during this cycle that were on record exam.
Thank you. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommendations.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the hearing officer's report and recommendations is adopted. And the case is dismissed, and it's therefore ordered that the name of Dorothy Brown Cook shall not be printed on the ballot for the municipal general election.
Decision is being signed, and again, if the parties want to wait, we can get you a copy of it now, instead of waiting for it to arrive in the mail.
And we will call our next. Let the people decide.
He said 14 pages.
We're still in this hearing. I would appreciate if everyone would be quiet. The next case is 19 EB-MUN-012, Ronisha Doreen and Nina Stoner versus Neil Sales Griffin. Are the parties here?
No one wants to hear me talk.
Buddy, now you know how Chap Letter feels.
Yeah. He is. Lead mine. Lead yours? Yeah. All right.
Dealing with some rock on another case, I saw him that he's got an ongoing case, Electoral Board case. But he didn't contact me specifically about it.
Okay, we're going to proceed with this case unless.
It's a joint motion, so I think, it's a joint Rule 20 motion, so
We can
I think we
proceed.
should just proceed.
Yes, I think we can proceed.
Do you want to step in for Mr. Finko?
No, he's on the other side.
Oh, okay. We could appoint you.
In this case, let me just state briefly that the objectors have filed a motion to withdraw their objections. That is what is before us, and the candidate has filed, is in agreement with that. Is that correct?
That's correct. We filed a motion to ask this board to reject the recommendation of the hearing officer to deny the motion to withdraw that was filed by the candidate.
It's a joint motion?
It is a joint Rule 20 motion, yes.
Okay. Well, let me begin by stating a few things. And this is directed mainly towards the objectors who aren't here, but I hope they hear this.
And the record will reflect.
And the record will reflect. What's most disappointing about this motion is the significant harm that has been caused by the objectors. There's been harm to the candidate. The objectors wasted his time and resources spending about 5.5 weeks in our offices defending objections when they clearly had no intention of completing these objections. There's harm to the city of Chicago taxpayers who had to spend tens of thousands of dollars on handwriting experts, board personnel, overtime, and hearing officers' time just to examine the line-by-line objections and objectors brought forth in this case. And harm to the election process itself by delaying the attention to other cases where the objectors are serious about pursuing the law. I understand how fully politics and strategy play into objections, but this objection and the last-minute withdrawal is absurd. There are good and sound reasons for the laws in our election code. For example, a statement of candidacy is there to make sure that the candidate actually wants to run and isn't being directed by others. Receipts for statements of economic interest makes sure that candidates have filed sworn statements to reveal possible financial conflicts. Binding, numbering, and notarizing of petition sheets guards against people trying to add or subtract ballot pages after the petition is filed. The signature requirements are there to ensure that the candidate has a modicum of support in the community. Here, the objectors swore under oath that they challenged the candidate's petition because there weren't enough signatures. The objectors also swore that they were interested in seeing to it that the election laws are properly complied with and that only duly qualified candidates appear on the ballot. But then after 5.5 weeks of intense proceedings and wasting of valuable and limited resources, these objectors suddenly decide to withdraw their case. To hear that Ricky Hendon said that a reason for dropping this case was to save taxpayers money at this time, at the 11th hour, was almost laughable and just ridiculous. The time and money has already been wasted. That train left the station on December 10th. In the meantime, tens of thousands of dollars have been wasted and time has been lost by a candidate and this election board. You can combine this case filed by the same objections team led by the same Ricky Hendon, and that is the case against candidate LaShawn Ford. Together, these cases involve tens of thousands of lines of objections that our board personnel and the hearing officer had to comb through. All of this activity proved frivolous. Together, these two objections cases have derailed this election. They have delayed our ability to focus on other cases. That, in turn, has delayed the launch of early voting and delayed our ability to print ballots for the people who want to vote by mail. But most importantly, these objectors needlessly and callously put this candidate in limbo. I want to suggest that my fellow commissioners consider taking another action after this vote. I would like us to consider asking our general counsel to add something to our legislative wish list. That would be the ability to seek financial sanctions against bad faith objectors. The taxpayer should not have to foot the bill for this kind of political gamesmanship. Perhaps a bond or statement that could be required so that those who file bad faith or shotgun objections could be required to pay for the costs of this process. With that, I would welcome a motion to deny the objector's motion at the 11th hour to withdraw these objections. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, the motion passes, and now, given the egregious nature of these objections, I will entertain a motion to dismiss the objections based on the bad faith by which they were brought. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. The motion to dismiss the objections in case number 19 EB-MUN 012 passes unanimously, and it is therefore ordered that based upon the bad faith and frivolous nature of the objectors' objections, the objections are dismissed in their entirety, and the name of Neil Sales Griffin, candidate for mayor of the city of Chicago, shall be printed on the ballot for the municipal general election.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
You sending me down the screen for the council?
And Mr. Lasker, I think we're all in agreement that you draft some legislation, proposed legislation for us to look at that encompasses what I've said.
I have been wanting legislation like that for years, Madam Chair.
Okay? Thank you.
There's no one to talk about that on our regular board meeting.
Very good. And suddenly they're all gone.
Okay. We will proceed with some final decisions. The first one is candidate withdrawal. In case, this is number 4 on the agenda. J.G. Ramirez versus Trevor Joseph Grant, 19 EB-ALD-066, candidate for the first ward. Is there a motion to dismiss the objector's petition as approved due to the candidate's withdrawal?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and this case is dismissed, and it is therefore ordered that the name of Trevor Joseph Grant will not be printed on the ballot for the municipal general election. Next, we have a candidate withdrawal in the case.
Objector.
Objector withdrawal. Leroy Davis versus Joseph Ziegler Jr., 19 EB-ALD-016, with a related case ALD-050. Is there a motion to grant the objector's motion to withdraw in this case and dismiss the objector's objections?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion to withdraw the objections in 016 is granted. We have, the next case is Deborah Parker, number 3 on the agenda. Deborah Parker and Geralda Morgan versus Joseph Z. Ziegler Jr., 19 EB-ALD-050. In this related case, the hearing officer found that the candidate, Joseph Ziegler, had 65 signatures, more than the required minimum. Is there a motion to adopt the hearing officer's report and recommendations, finding that the candidate meets the requirements to be placed on the ballot?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the motion to adopt the hearing officer's report in case number 19 EB-ALD-050 is granted, and it is therefore ordered that the name of Joseph C. Ziegler Jr. shall be printed on the ballot for the municipal general election. The next, in the following cases, the hearing officer has overruled the objections. Number 6 on the agenda, Grace Contreras, Michael Anthony Rodriguez, and William E. Anson Sr. versus Pete Demay, 19 EB-ALD-076, Alderman candidate for the 12th ward. Number 9 on the agenda, Jessica A. Terry and Kelly Martin versus Jennifer O. Maddox, 19 EB-ALD-123, related case ALD-148, candidate for the 20th ward. Number 13 on the agenda, Gina Zucaro and Monique Cook Bay versus Amaya Hawar, number 19 EB-MUN-017, candidate for treasurer. Is there a motion to adopt their respective hearing officers' reports and recommended decisions, overrule the respective objectors' petitions, and enter final decisions in favor of each of the aforementioned candidates?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And and it is therefore ordered that the names of the respective candidates shall be printed on the ballots for the municipal general election. In each of the following cases, the hearing officer has issued a report and recommendation to sustain the objections. Number 2 on the agenda, Inglesa Tony versus Pat Patricia Marshall, 19 EB ALD-037, candidate for the 24th Ward. Number 5 on the agenda, Grace Contreras, Michael Anthony Rodriguez, and William E. Anson Sr. versus Samuel Alcantar, 19 EB ALD-072, candidate for the 12th Ward. Number 7 on the agenda, Renee G. Elms, Peter Rivera, Renee Wozniak, Maria G. Orihel, and Evelyn Raza versus Joel Riojas, 19 EB ALD-104, candidate for the 15th Ward. Is there a motion to adopt each of the respective hearing officers' reports and recommendations, sustain each of the objectors' petitions, and enter final judgment against each of the respective candidates?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and the objectors' petitions in each of these cases are sustained, and it is therefore ordered that the names of the aforementioned candidates will not be printed on the ballot for the municipal general election. Mr. Lester, is there anything else?
We have final decisions for you to sign here. That is it.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. We have received no requests for public comment at this time. So, we will recess at the call of the chair. Is there a motion to recess?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're recessed.